10, 15 years younger than me, but I was her TA. And so the humility of being willing to learn at the feet of someone who has more experience than you, who is invested in you, and invested in your success because she believed in my mission. And I had my mission already. My mission was to ensure that all people had access to competent and ethical financial planning, irrespective of their wealth and their income.
You are in for such a treat with this Conversations in Finance. Hi, my name's Dominique Henderson, your CFP on YouTube, and my guest this week is Saundra Davis of Sage Financial Solutions. We had such a wonderful time talking about all things financial coaching inside of the financial profession, the financial services industry. And Saundra has such a wealth of knowledge, being both in academia as well as on the practitioner side with her coaching practice. So I was really so eager to dive into some topics to really help that career changer, that person getting started in this industry, to really understand the impact of what a financial professional does for a client. But we always begin with the money story, and here is Saundra's.
So I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. I was a fast-track high school, college-bound kid. My mom sold our home when I was 15 because she couldn't pay what at that time was a $300 a month mortgage.
Wow.
And so for a house in San Francisco, right? And so my life just spiraled from that point. I dropped out of high school, took my GED, and joined the Navy, and then just had a series of financial challenges from just not knowing anything about money. And started back, finally went to college at 32 and I was a career changer. So at 44, I, for the first time, heard what a financial planner was. And I had never heard the word financial planner up until I became one. Wow. And so, And so for me, it was get my own financial life in order and really understand it. And then I also just really wanted to understand what people with high net worth knew about money that I didn't know, and that the people that I care about didn't know. And so I had about 3 careers in between the Navy and becoming a financial planner. So after I got out of the Navy, I sold radio advertising. I worked for the U.S. government. I was, doing similar work that I'd done while I was active duty. I did a lot of stuff. And then I became a development director. So I was raising funds in nonprofits. So I was great at sales. I could sell sand in the desert.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you could be drowning and I'll sell you water. Okay, I was really good. But I had to sell something that I believed in. And so for me, I wasn't willing to just sell stuff. I had to sell something I believed in. I didn't ever get into any sales in financial planning. I started out directly with the fee-only side. And so this was in 2004 when I made that shift. And so that was really the thing that got me into financial planning. And so from the beginning, very much like you, for me, back in 2004, I had to kick the door in, right? I was a career changer. Everybody was saying the only way to make a living is to do high net worth financial planning. And that I would have to do that in order to serve who I really wanted to serve, which was low and moderate income communities, and primarily people in my own community. Yeah. So I got my master's and I worked for other planners in the beginning. And then I learned about financial coaching, and it's been the rest is history.
Saundra also told me about how she really had to carve her way into this industry. There was not financial coaching when she decided to take up this mantle, and she created for herself a mission. She networked with people. And so I really want you to pay attention to this, because this is networking 101.
So let me give you an example. When I first became I was literally in the financial planning program myself at Golden Gate. I was in 420, which is the survey class, that first class we take when we're in a master's program, right, of financial planning, or even just to get the CFP, right? So I'm in the class, I'm like 2 weeks in. And I'd gone to a couple FPA meetings. I hear that there's this dude named Tim Coaches. And Tim Coaches runs one of the biggest top firms in San Francisco at that time, right?
Okay.
So I give him a call and I say, hey, well, I sent an email. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? He said yes. He said yes. I had no idea that you don't do that. I had no idea that you don't call look, 2 weeks in, I hadn't even gotten it. I hadn't even finished midterm. I hadn't even.
Brand new, all green. Yeah.
We wasn't even sure I was going to pass the class.
But that's probably good, because if you would have learned too much and gone out, then you would have got probably, some inhibitions to not do that. But I love that. I love that.
And so I went to him and I said, this is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And he said to me these words that have driven my approach since that day. He said, Saundra, for what you want to do, you're going to have to turn the need you see into demand.
Love it.
And it's like,
yeah,
because I was like, well, everybody I know needs this, but they didn't have the money to pay. Or if they did have the money to pay, they didn't understand the importance.
Okay.
Right. And so for me, he literally blew my mind with that.
Yeah.
He literally blew my mind with that. And so that's really what was the turning point for me. So exactly. So she was just like, but here's the thing. She was so dedicated to her clients. And we were at an FPA meeting, sat together at lunch. We built an internship together. She didn't have one, but I wanted one. So I went to my professor and I said, look, instead of taking this class that I didn't want to take, I won't name it, this class I want to take, let me do an internship. And they let me do it. So she paid me $20 an hour. Now, listen, I'm 44 years old, right?
I hear you.
You know where I'm going?
I hear you. Hey, you are all up in the preaching that I do on this platform to career changers, with having to take a pay cut, with you miss all the shots you don't take, with going to FPA meetings, which was probably a $30 ticket, which landed you in the industry.
People have to be ready. And the saving grace for me is that while I knew that I had a lot of expertise, so this is what we did. We traded expertise, right? I only worked part-time for her, but so I did her filing. I emptied the garbage. I did her data entry. I handled her tech, right? Because those were the things that she needed support with. I wasn't a young woman, but I've been a tech nerd since 1982, right? So I gave her what I could offer her. And I accepted what she could offer me, which was $20 an hour, 20 hours a week.
And experience and exposure.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Sometimes you can't just make the leap. I totally understand that. This is not one of those part-time careers, but if you have to do it part-time and you have to choose, Saundra had some pretty good wisdom and experience to share with me on exactly how you would go about that.
There's two things I'll say about that.
Okay.
While I'm a firm believer in the CFP and I'm a firm believer in comprehensive financial planning, right? We'll talk more about that when we get into the distinctions, right? I do believe that for some people, they may not have a choice but to do it part-time. They may have to feed their family and go down this road. I had the good fortune of having a partner that had my back. It didn't mean that we weren't broke. It didn't mean, and when I say broke, I mean, we had developed a lifestyle that we were not able to maintain while my income was gone, so we adjusted for that. We literally lived on $40,000 in California. Right? And we ain't no spring chickens, right? We young folks, but we not young folks, right? So, so we had to throttle back a lot of our choices to be able to do this. But for some people, there's a young woman that I can think of now who is doing the part-time thing. And sure, it's going to take her twice as long to get her hours, but then she's got to be more creative about ways to get her hours. So she's got to volunteer, she's got to, participate in things that can get her hours while she's doing this part-time gig. And so, if people don't have a choice, do what you have to do, but have a plan.
Now, perhaps many of you watching don't know the difference between what a financial coach does and a financial advisor or financial planner. So I really wanted Saundra to kind of dig in and break down what a financial coach does, what the financial coaching profession really involves when working with clients. This is what she had to say.
Let's talk about the difference between those first before we decide on how do you pick a path.
Right. So if I can, let me back up one step and kind of frame this conversation. Back in 2007,
Okay.
I put together the idea of the financial health continuum, right, from a professional standpoint. And that's when coaching was first starting to emerge.
Okay.
And I had actually learned about coaching in 2005-06.
Okay.
It started to become more prevalent in the nonprofit sector in about 2007. I was one of the first in the country to build a coaching program. And so for me, and when I was trying to explain to people what it was, for me, it's education, counseling, coaching, planning, and therapy.
Okay.
And that continuum, now it's not linear, right?
Yeah.
You might be working with a client that comes in for planning and they need support around education. They might even need support with coaching or counseling, right? And you might find that they need therapy, right? So it's not a straight line by any stretch of the imagination. And it's not, in what I caution people against, it's not an either or, right? The idea is, how do you decide how you're going to offer your services? Who are you going to be with those clients? You've got counselors, planners, and therapists who use coaching skills.
Yes.
And that's just fine. For me, I am only a coach. So if I'm working with a client who needs a comprehensive financial plan, I'm going to direct them to someone who can do that for them.
Yes.
Now, they might need to come back to me for implementation support, but I'll never undermine or usurp the guidance of a planner, because a planner is going to look at their whole picture.
Yeah.
Now, I may or may not be focused on their whole picture. I'm going to focus on what keeps them inspired and motivated toward their highest and best. I'm not sure it's as much the relationship with the planner as much as it is the planner taking the moment to truly understand the motivation of the client. It's one thing to say, okay, I understand what your goals are. It's another thing to sit with that client as they capture their vision, right? And as they make it clear. Now, is that a relationship? Certainly, but it's not as though financial planners have to spend ages and ages trying to build. It really is as simple as, well, I want to retire at 65. So tell me what's important about retiring at 65.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
great questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Spending the time to sit and listen and make space. Sometimes a financial planner is the one person that they really can unpack all of this with. And so what coaches do is just what you and I just did, rather than say, okay, well, so tell me what you've already saved, right? I'm not going to go there, right? I am going to say, so when you think about retiring at 65, what will that look like for you? Describe it. And then they're going to figure it out, right? And they may not know. Then that's their homework. If you don't know, let's put a pin in this.
Yeah.
And I'd like for you to go talk to the people you care most deeply about and explore what retirement is going to look like for you. And then let's come back and talk about, how do we co-create a plan that's going to get you where you want to go? So when we're looking at the effectiveness of coaching, I'm looking at a couple of things. Number one is the client creating self-directed goals, right? Does the client know what's important to them about those goals? And am I offering space for them to do that?
Now, regardless of what you call yourself, whatever title you use, financial coach, financial therapist, financial planner, financial advisor, I really wanted Saundra to kind of unpack and break down what financial coaching looks like as a verb as opposed to a noun. And this is what she had to say.
So I think the thing that I'll say is that it's not a thing that you do, right? It is, how am I going to be with my clients? So a financial planner can absolutely still be a financial planner and use coaching skills. So I don't think that it is in the financial planning profession yet as clear of a path as I think it will be, in the same way that paraplanner 10 years ago wasn't a thing.
Excellent point.
It's a thing now. Some financial planners are never going to be comfortable or confident to have those kinds of conversations with their clients.
Yeah.
They're magicians with the Monte Carlo simulations and the other things, the investments and all, right? But when
Yeah.
it comes to being able to sit with the discomfort that clients are experiencing, they may or may not ever be able to do that. Having a coach on your team allows that coach to sit there with you and pull those things together, evoking that from the client. So that then the planner who's doing the nuts and bolts of the plan really has all of the information that they need to create a plan that the client owns. Notice I don't say buy-in, I say that the client owns.
Yeah.
Because if the client buys in, that means I'm still trying to convince them. And when times like this happen, all
They
of the
might chuck it.
convincing-
Yeah,
you
you're
know
right.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's the difference between ownership and buy-in.
Yep.
Right? Because I want the client to own the plan and own that if anything has to change, that when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. Yeah. And that doesn't mean every financial planner has to be a coach or even, adopt a different model. When I teach at Golden Gate and I teach the coaching essentials class, the coaching skills class there, I'm teaching them how to take these skills and incorporate them into discovery and into their action planning so that they really can create a plan with the client and that the client can see themselves in the plan, right? So rather it be this hurdle that they have to get over, rather than it being this thing they've got to grapple with. Now it's like, okay, this is my pathway.
Yeah.
Right. And it's something that they're inspired and energized to do. Honestly, no matter what people say, no one has a goal to just make lots and lots of money.
I agree with you.
They might say that, but under there's something more. A coach looks for the something more, because that's where the person's inspiration is. And so if I can help them find their why and their inspiration, they can find the motivation, and we do that together. So I think the thing that I would say is that when you're looking at how you want to show up for your clients, you may find that you have to do multiple things. You might be a planner who also has to make sure you know how to offer education for your clients if they don't really understand what you're doing. So for instance, if I'm working with a client and I'm talking to them, if I'm in a planner hat, right, and I'm talking about a safe withdrawal rate, the thing I would ask is, so tell me what's important to you about this, right? Because I want them to know why there's a safe withdrawal rate, right? I don't want this to be something that they're thinking, oh, my planner has imposed this on me.
Yeah. Next, we spent some time on this path of self-awareness that I believe all financial professionals need to walk in order to be empowered to truly help their clients to change their money habits and their money behaviors so that they can win with their money. And this is what Saundra had to say.
I think so. First of all, it's great that you're starting with the why and then the personal self-assessment. That's very similar to what we do when I'm training coaches, right? The rub becomes knowing better does not always mean doing better. So I can know my self-assessment. I can know my triggers and my hot spots. Whether or not I'm able to do better is going to be the rub. And so that's what the coaching training does for you, is it allows you to not only know those things about yourself, but to decide how you want to respond to those things, right?
How you show
First
up,
of all, yeah. And so how does someone go about it? It's practice. I'm a better coach today than I was in 2006.
So would you incorporate tools like maybe like 360-degree reviews and things of that nature? Does that? Okay. Well, some sort of accountability, right? You need to have gotta have that.
There's that.
Okay. I feel like there's a backstory, but go ahead.
Well, no, it's just that there are some things that are not going to be assessed on paper, right? There are some things that, at the end of our conversation, I'll look back and notice, how many times did I interrupt you? How many times did I miss the point because I wasn't fully present? Right? How many times did I think I knew what you were going to say? Right? And so I'm looking at those things and reflecting back what I want to do better. So for me, it's listening better taking a pause between what you say and what I say and starting to build those things into my different way of being. Those agreements is always do your best. The caveat to that is understanding that on any given day, your best will be different. So all I can do is my best for today. Now, my best tomorrow might be better. So I give myself a lot of grace, but I never give up. Right? I give myself grace, but I never give up. And so yesterday I was not nearly as productive as I wanted to be. So I started all over again today. I just shake it off.
Yeah.
Go to the next day. And so that's really what I do. I expect excellence from myself. I don't expect perfection, but I do expect excellence. And so I just shoot for it every day. Some days I get it. Some days I don't. You know, honestly, Dominique, the research shows that we are more likely to change our behavior if we hold ourselves with self-compassion. We are less likely, when we abuse ourselves, when we say negative things to ourselves, we're actually less likely to make the changes that we want to make.
Next is just some good old-fashioned wisdom about what a career changer should do, how they can excel, and not only just excel, but be excellent at what they want to do when it comes to helping people with their money. Make sure you listen to this.
Okay.
And so for me, I started out with excellence every year. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. And I know people may not be able to do this. So do this on your own terms.
Yeah.
Every year, I spend about $10,000 on professional development. Every year. Now, some years that $10,000 covers two. So for instance, I'm doing Search Inside Yourself, which is becoming a teacher for mindfulness. So I practice money mindfulness, right? And so now that's a 2-year program. So that 10K is 2 years. I did the financial behavior specialist with the Clances. That was a 2-year program, 10K.
I love Brad. Yeah. Brad's cool.
You know, I did that. I also did the Sherpa program, executive coaching, another, you know. So I'm every single year, I'm getting better. And even though, I mean, I'm a pretty doggone good coach right now, but, and I have a certification. And every single year I work at getting better, because you know what? Everybody who sits in a room with me or is on the web with me when I'm training, they deserve me getting better. Yeah, I think also align yourself with people who work the way you want to work. I was too old to be playing around, right? So I didn't go to any of the broker. I knew that I was not going to go any of those routes. I knew that I wanted to be with a fee-only financial planner. So I hung out where the fee-only financial planners were.
Makes sense.
Went to FPA residency. FPA residency was career changing for me. It was one of the best investments of time that I ever made. I got a scholarship to go. And that was one of the best investments of time that I ever made. And had I had the money to pay for it and knowing what I know now, I absolutely would pay for it. The other thing that I did that I think was really important for me as a career changer, I didn't find one mentor. I had several mentors. And so I understood what each one of them could bring. And even as old as I was, and quite frankly, I was older than most of them, I had no problem with sitting at the feet, you know, and that metaphor is it's okay to humble yourself, to be learning from someone who may not have as much experience as you do professionally, right? But they have experience in this profession. I wasn't able to go the high net worth route first and then I just couldn't do it. I will say, I don't recommend it. It's tough, but I will say this. If you are not finding a job in the for-profit sector as a financial planner or financial coach, look at the nonprofit sector. Look at hanging out your own shingle for coaching. I would not suggest people who are new to the profession hang out their own shingle as a comprehensive, and I'll tell you what my coach said to me. Let me say this.
Yeah.
Because this was my mantra. I was not working in a planning firm. I was not being supervised by any CFPs. I knew some CFPs who were willing to supervise me. But once I learned that I'm really not that interested in investments and all that other stuff, my mantra became, I will do for clients only that which I am confident in my competence to do. And that became my mantra. So I could do a budget, I could do debt reduction plans. So I leaned in to what I could do.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I made a living, and then I made a life. And sometimes I just want to say this one thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes as a career changer, our specialty is leaning into the career we just left.
I totally agree.
Right?
I totally agree.
So for an engineer, leaning into financial planning for engineers might make the most sense, right?
To me, it's a no-brainer. I had a physician coaching client that he knew how to build a medical practice. He knew, monetization events. He knew all this stuff, and he went back and served those people, and he has a great practice now. And he understands the language. That's the other thing. He doesn't have to work really hard with all these barriers, especially when the prospecting phase. He speaks their language. So no, I totally agree with that.
It's always pretty fun to pick my guest's brain when it comes to the lightning round. And Saundra was no different with her wisdom and her wit, with just playing along with me on these 3 topics.
Okay, so tomorrow's financial professional must be effective at blank to create tangible progress for clients.
Empathy.
Yeah. I couldn't underscore that more. So just unpack empathy just a little bit. I know it's a lightning round, but yeah, I think when you say empathy, you're meaning all the soft skills that are pretty much not taught in CFP curriculum.
Yeah. And so let me give you like a real concise way to think about empathy.
Yeah.
Empathy is feeling with someone, right? Compassion is feeling for someone.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? If you balance self-compassion or compassion with that, I'm still holding you as perfect and complete. And I understand your situation. And I'm wanting the highest and best for you. I don't know that I'll attribute it to any gender, but I will say society makes more room for us to be more gracious and empathetic and to not know, whereas men are, and I do think you guys might be hardwired to fix things. I used to think that was only nurture, but I think there might be some nature in that. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I don't know for sure, but I do know that if I'm in my kitchen and the burner isn't working, I have to be very mindful of when I tell my partner that the burner isn't working, because I can be in the midst of something. I can be cooking. I'm giving him information, and you know where I'm going. I'm giving him information.
Because it blows the whole thing up just to fix it. I love it.
So I want him to fix it at some point.
Yeah. Not right now, though. Oh, that's so great. Last one. In the next 10 years, financial coaching will be fill in the blank.
The way to go. The way to go.
The default.
Yeah. And again, not as a distinct, it is a distinct field, right? Yeah. I am a financial coach. I don't do planning. I don't do therapy. I do some education and some counseling, but I am really clear that I am a coach. Anybody that needs more than that, I'm going to put them with the right professional for that. But the reason that I think financial coaching is going to come into the forefront is that everyone will be integrating those skills. And everyone, irrespective of where you are on that financial health continuum, you'll be using coaching language and coaching skills that inspires clients to live well and to do those doggone plans.
I love that.
To implement what you all create.
Well, as you can tell, we had so much fun together. Saundra is an absolute jewel of a person and so fun to talk to. If you like this or want to share it with somebody, make sure you do. Leave us a comment down below if you have any questions about this particular conversation. You can also check out this playlist for more conversations in finance. Until the next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.